Duval, good morning. Saturday morning, day 3 of the draft ahead of us. Welcome in. I'm Jordan Lugo with Duval Daily, presented by GenJag.com. We are getting ready for day 3 of the NFL draft. Another one. Yes, the Jaguars drafted another linebacker on day 2. We're grading the picks so far and looking ahead at day 3. Going to preview some positions, look at some potential options for the Jaguars. But first, we're going to go ahead and grade every pick the Jaguars have made so far. You can follow myself on Twitter at Jordan DeLugo, Generation Jaguar at Generation Jag. Pretty tired, guys. Not going to lie to you. But we are going to power through this, and we're going to have a good time here. Appreciate everyone for tuning in. So, on round 1, Thursday night of the 2022 NFL Draft, the Jaguars selected Trayvon Walker with the first pick, and then they traded up for Devin Lloyd at 27, giving up 33, 106, and 180. 33 and 106 were key inflection point picks because 33 was the top of day 2, 106 was the top of day 3. They no longer have a 4th-round pick as of right now. We'll get into all that, but let's look. Trayvon Walker, Devin Lloyd, how are we grading these picks? For me, I'm giving Trayvon Walker a B. This is a guy that's going to come in and be an elite run defender from the jump. He will be able to set the edge. He will be able to roll down the line of scrimmage and make plays. He'll be able to get into the backfield and make plays against the run. When it comes to affecting the passing game, he is a block eater at this point. He is also a guy who can stunt, and he can drop into coverage and make a lot of plays, make it difficult for quarterbacks to find windows down the field with his length and athleticism. He is a freak show physically and athletically. He's already refined in run defense, instinctual in coverage, and he has just loads of potential. So even if he doesn't develop into a true pass rusher in year 1, he's going to make an impact for the Jaguars against the run. So I'm giving it a B because he's a good player right now. He has the potential to be a great player. Devin Lloyd is getting an A for me. Yeah, you had to trade up to land an off-ball linebacker, but this is so much more than an off-ball linebacker. Devin Lloyd, while he is an off-ball linebacker, he has that green dot ability that the Jaguars have talked about. He communicated the plays, called them out, processed everything, made sure everyone was in the right place at Utah. But this is a guy who can also cover incredibly well. He's an elite run defender with his length, explosiveness, athleticism. He's a guy that can rush off the edge legitimately, not as a blitzer, as a pass rusher, lined up as in a 2-point stance, outside linebacker, on ball. Devin Lloyd can get it done for you. He has a pass rush arsenal already. He is just a playmaker, unbelievable leader, very consistent football player. 4 interceptions in 2021, 2 touchdowns. Good morning, Ron. Appreciate you guys all for being here. Patrick Long says, let's just trade all of our picks for 2 4th-rounders and get a receiver and a running back. I wouldn't blame them for, trying to trade back up into that 4th round, and we'll talk about that here. But we're going through the grades and talking about specifically day 2 we're going to get into here right now. Luke Fortner was the pick at 65 overall. He was the number 2 center on my board personally. I had him as a 2nd-round draft pick. So obviously getting him in. Hey, good morning, Mom. Thanks for tuning in. Luke Fortner, 2nd-round pick on my board. So landing him at 65 at the top of the 3rd round, I think, was a home run. This is a guy that fills a position of need long term. Tyler Shatley has the ability to start in 2022 as a center, as a stopgap option, kind of. But he's over 30 years old. He's never been a full-time starter. He's not someone who you want entrenched in the starting lineup for a long time. He's a great role player, but Luke Fortner coming in, 33-inch arms. He's 6'4", 307 pounds. He has big 10-inch hands. He's not a guy that And I talked about him on the stream yesterday, suggesting that the Jaguars maybe could target him as a center / guard. He has that versatility. I do think they're going to, and Doug Peterson said this, they're going to run him at center to start, but they are going to let him play guard as well, and see what he can do there. So he could end up being the starting center in year one. He could end up competing with Ben Barch at left guard. This is a guy who does not scream zone blocking scheme, but he does have the enough athleticism, enough length to get it done in a zone scheme. I didn't watch his tape and be like, oh my gosh, this is a zone center. This is a zone guard. He's not that type of athlete, but he's a good enough athlete and he's a great football player. Like I said, his length helps him, and he's a very nasty center. Like, this guy is always looking to hit someone. So he's going to be a fan favorite. He's real smart, doesn't make many mistakes. A good pass protector, a good run blocker. Like I said, I had a second round grade on him. The only thing holding me back from really going all in on Luke Fortner as like a first round pick is the athleticism that's not quite there for you. But the 5.21 40-yard dash is 63rd percentile, so it's not like he has prohibitively bad athleticism. It's just not elite. But yeah, I'm giving him an A. If you get a guy who fills a position of need, has a higher grade on my board than where you drafted him, and again, I had a second round grade on Luke Fortner. The Jaguars got him in the third. And then Chad Mumma. This is the pick everybody's talking about, right? Another off-ball linebacker. Are you kidding me? No, not kidding you. Chad Mumma is a stud. This guy, he was my linebacker 2 after finding out about the Nakobe Dean shoulder issue that he did not get taken care of. I had Nakobe Dean and Chad Mumma in the same tier. They were right next to each other in my rankings. But now that we know about the shoulder that popped up, that's a medical red flag for Nakobe Dean, I would put Chad Mumma ahead of him as linebacker 2 in this class. And I'm going to talk about what he does, and then I'll talk about the fit in Jacksonville, because it is interesting drafting 2 off-ball linebackers in the first 2 days of the draft. But Chad Mumma is elite against the run. He has great instincts. He diagnoses quickly. Another green dot guy. He can communicate the plays to the rest of the football team, get everybody lined up on the defensive side of the ball. But he is just so smart, so instinctive, such a quick processor against the run. And he's explosive, incredibly explosive. This guy leaped 40 inches in the vert for a linebacker. 4.63 40-yard dash isn't anything crazy. 1.6 10-yard split isn't anything crazy. Both of those are good numbers. He has big 10-inch hands. His arms are not super long, but they're not prohibitively short either. He's 6'2 3/4, so almost 6'3", 239 pounds. So you look at the fact that he doesn't have the length you kind of want, but his instincts, his quick diagnosability combined with his explosiveness that you see in the vertical jump, the broad jump, and his strength make him a good tackler. Like, this guy does not miss many tackles at all, which is something you worry about with a shorter armed guy. But like I said, because he's so disciplined, so instinctive, and has great explosiveness and strength, he's able to wrap up ball carriers and just be a consistent tackler. And then in coverage, he's another guy that is really comfortable dropping into zones like Devin Lloyd. He can take running backs. I think he'll be able to take tight ends at the next level too if you need him to. But very instinctual in coverage, knows where to be, when to be there. And he's another one that can kind of bait quarterbacks into throwing some passes that they really don't have any business throwing. So that's what Chad Mumma brings to you. I had an early second round grade on him. I think he was like my 33rd ranked player. And the Jaguars landed him at 70. So now you talk about the fit. As I mentioned before, Mumma has the ability to be an inside linebacker, weak side, strong side. I think he can do all that when you're in a 4-3 situation. And the 3-4, though, how can Devin Lloyd, Chad Mumma, and Foye Oluokun all be on the field at the same time? Well, you can line Devin Lloyd up as an on-ball linebacker. 2-point stance. Let him rush the passer. if you want to do that, you can get Chad Mumma and Foye Oluokun on the field together with Devin Lloyd. I'm not sure that they're going to be all on the field at the same time often, but I do think they will be, and I do think Chad Mumma will carve out a role on the defense in year one. He's also going to be a core special teamer, just like his buddy Dewey. They're both Wyoming guys. So he's excited to get back with Dewey. It's kind of incredible that Dewey has lasted as long as he has, Andrew Wingard in Jacksonville. But yeah, we got Andrew Heyer saying definitely a steal. What up, Andrew? Chad is an absolute stud, as Nasir says. So yeah, ideally, are you drafting 2 off-ball linebackers in the first 2 days of the draft? Probably not, but the Jaguars vacated a lot of the guys that they had in that room last year. Obviously, Miles Jack, Damian Wilson, Dylan Moses, Dakota Allen. The Jaguars wanted to reshape that linebacker room. That's exactly what they have done. Ron says, do you think they have the ability now to switch from during the game from a 4-3 and go to a 3-4 back? Absolutely. They're going to be a hybrid front. They're going to give you different looks consistently, and having Foye Oluokun, Chad Mumma, and Devin Lloyd, who can all do a lot of different things for you at linebacker and all have really good athleticism. Yeah, I would absolutely say they are going to be used often. I think Devin Lloyd and Foye Oluokun are the starters, if you will, at linebacker, off-ball linebacker. But Chad Mumma is going to get in the game on defense, and he's going to make a big impact. And when you look at Foye Oluokun, he hasn't played a down in Jacksonville yet, right? But he signed that big 3-year deal. There's a 2-year out. If you have Chad Mumma and Devin Lloyd playing at a high level, I hate to rush this guy out of town before he's even taken a snap in Jacksonville. But if those two kids that you just drafted are playing at a high level in year 2, do you want to keep paying Foye Oluokun the amount that you are? Again, this is a cutthroat business. I hate to talk about that because I like Oluokun. I want him here. I think he's going to be a good player for the Jaguars, an impactful player. But I do think long term there is kind of a logjam there when you look at 2-3 years down the road. But that's a good problem to have. That the Jaguars, I wouldn't be surprised if this year this is a top 12 linebacker group, and year 2 I could see Devin Lloyd, Chad Mumma both being upper echelon starters, with Foye Oluokun being a tackling machine and a playmaker. That could be a top 5 linebacker group very quickly. So when you talk about the Jaguars had other needs, yes, they did, but Chad Mumma at 70 is one of the steals of the draft, in my opinion. He's that good of a player. Yes, Josh Allen is going hunting next year, Florida boy. I'm with you. So Mumma gets an A. Fortner gets an A. Lloyd gets an A. I gave Trayvon Walker a B, so the total so far, I'm giving the Jaguars an A for this draft. I really love Trayvon Walker's ability to just eat up blocks and free up Devin Lloyd and Chad Mumma. And then you look at Luke Fortner, he's going to come in and compete for a starting job, whether it be at center or left guard in year 1. I think he'll be able to earn playing time, and he should be a long-time starter. Very smart kid, very disciplined, very physical on the field. He loves to hit people. So that's exciting. I think the Jaguars have had a home run of a draft so far. I apologize to Trent Baalke. And look, Baalke had a good draft last year too. It wasn't just Trevor Lawrence. I was critical of some of the decisions he made early on last year, but they're panning out. I mean, Tyson Campbell was a great pick at 33. Walker Little looks like he has starting ability in this league. Andre Cisco, another steal. He was a guy at 65 that really shouldn't have been there. It was just the ACL. So you look at and Travis Etienne as well. He hasn't even seen the field yet, and he's probably going to end up being a big-time playmaker. But yeah, Baalke's having a good time in the draft the last couple of years. I can tell you that for sure. Josh Bergman, let's get it. Go Jags. All right. Day 3. is coming up at noon today. The Jaguars hold picks 150, 188, 198, 199, 223, and 236. Pick 150 is in the 5th round, 188, 198, 199 in the 6th round, 223 and 236 in the 7th. Do you want to have 3 6th-rounders and 2 7th-rounders on this roster? Personally, I would be looking to trade up. The Jaguars do not have a 4th-round pick, so the draft starts at 106 today in terms of the pick. That's the first pick of the 4th round. Paul says Etienne was a reach and a player we didn't need last year, but agree it was a good overall draft. You can say that, but let's wait till he gets on the field before we're calling him a reach, because he was valued in that range by most people, by myself included. I had the Jaguars. I told people in my mock draft last year, I thought they should take him at 33 if he was available, and I don't know if he would have been. The Bills were reportedly very interested in Travis Etienne, so I'm going to disagree with you there on the Travis Etienne being a total reach, but appreciate the comment. So, yeah, the Jaguars do not have a pick until the 5th round. So they're going to be sitting there waiting a long time if they don't trade up. I think they're going to end up trading up at some point, probably into the 4th round. Maybe not the 4th round, but maybe you take a 6th and a 7th and trade back up into the 5th. I just don't think you need 3 6th-round picks and 2 7th-round picks to come into this roster. Are they going to be able to make an impact? Are they going to be able to find their footing? I'm not sure. The Jaguars have gotten a lot deeper this year in terms of being able to sign free agents, and the draft last year brought in a lot of talented players. So I'm not sure that you really want 5 guys from the 6th and 7th round on the roster. But a lot of people are unhappy the Jaguars have not taken a wide receiver yet. We'll start there. Obviously, they believe that their wide receiver room is better than most people believe their wide receiver room is. And we'll see how it all plays out. I do think when you look at Christian Kirk, Marvin Jones, Evan Ingram, and Dan Arnold, that's 4 very good targets. I know Ingram is inconsistent with his hands, but he's a playmaker. He's never caught less than like 45 passes in a season, I believe. So he's going to be an impact receiver for the Jaguars in the slot. But let's look at wide receiver. Justin Ross is still on the board. This is a guy who played with Trevor Lawrence in college. He's dealt with injuries. He's not quite the same athlete he used to be, but he's still got strong hands. Yeah, Jamal Agnew. I agree with you. My bad. I absolutely should have brought up Jamal Agnew as a reliable weapon. And I think Laviska Shenault, too, will develop into someone you can feel much more confident about. He's never had a drop issue in his life until Urban Meyer became his head coach and Sanjay Law became his wide receiver coach. It was a dumpster fire last year. So I'm willing to give Laviska Shenault the benefit of the doubt. I wouldn't be shocked if the Jaguars do find a trade partner for him. I don't think they should unless they're getting a day 2 pick in return, which of course I don't think that's going to happen, considering he was a 2nd-round pick himself and he's coming off a year that was disappointing to say the least, especially from a drops perspective. I agree. Visca's going to bounce back. I would bet on it. But yeah, Justin Ross, I think, could be a target. He can be a big slot. He can play outside. He's good with the football in his hands. He's a pretty good route runner, even though he's not a great athlete. Sharp cuts, and he has the ability to go up and get the ball deep down the field. Calvin Austin, I'm surprised he's on the board. If you look at Tutu Atwell going in the 2nd round of the 2021 draft and you still have Calvin Austin on the board, that's unbelievable to me. I think he should be selected very quickly. He's a diminutive receiver, but excellent athlete. When it comes to explosiveness, speed, great route runner, very good hands. I think Calvin Austin's going to be an impact player in the NFL. Might have to be pigeonholed as a slot, but I think he has the release package to win on the outside as well. Beau Melton out of Rutgers. This is a guy who was a 4-star recruit, had a ton of offers, decided to go to Rutgers where his family went. His parents were athletes before him. Was a bad decision overall for his career. He did not have the supporting cast, the quarterback play, the offense to really accentuate his skill set. but he did really well at the Senior Bowl, tested out of his mind at the Combine. He's 5'11". I think he's big enough to play on the outside. He's certainly fast enough and has the route running ability. I think Beau Melton has the potential to be a starting receiver in the NFL. Kyle Phillips is an elite route runner out of the slot. I think he's going to be a big impact player. Khalil Shakur is another slot receiver. So when you look at those guys, I wouldn't be surprised if the Jaguars target any of them. I know people are going to say, we need an X receiver. Well, yes, they do need an X receiver, but you don't want to just reach for someone who has a big body if they don't have the talent of some of these other guys. And I think when you're looking at Ross, Austin, Melton, Phillips, Shakir, these guys are going to make an impact in the NFL. When you look at safety, which I think is the weakest link at the Jaguars on the Jaguars defense right now, outside of Andre Cisco, you have Rayshon Jenkins starting. I think he's probably the weakest starter. And last year you went into the season, he was a team captain and a leader on that defense. Now he's probably the worst starter for them. So I think Tyson Anderson is a potential safety that the Jaguars could target. He can move around, play nickel a lot. They also did bring in Percy Butler for a top 30 visit, so he's a name to keep an eye on throughout the day. At tight end, this is another position where the Jaguars only have, they have Evan Ingram, Dan Arnold, Chris Manhertz, but all of them are on expiring contracts in 2022. So you could look at a tight end to shore up that room for the future. I think there's some good ones available. Charlie Kolar has fantastic hands, great size, not an elite athlete, but if you just toss the ball up to him, he's usually going to go get it. Chigo Okonkwo out of Maryland, he is an incredible athlete at the tight end position. I think he ran a 4.4 flat, something like that at the Combine. He's a guy that Maryland used in a lot of different ways. And he's a little bit raw, certainly, but he's an offensive weapon type of tight end, not really your traditional tight end. But he could be an interesting piece for sure. And then Jake Ferguson out of Wisconsin, I think he is just an excellent pass catcher, really balanced tight end who I think is going to make a positive impact. Who are we saying can play fullback this year? I'm not sure. Offensive line. The Jaguars did draft Luke Fortner, who will be an interior offensive lineman. But they have not addressed tackle. I'm not sure that they will. I'm not sure they'll bring in another offensive lineman, but they've shown interest in Matt Waletzko, who is just he's very raw, coming from smaller school, and he needs to put on strength, to be completely honest. Okonkwo, I don't really see him as a fullback, maybe an H-back this year. Anyways, Waletzko is an athletic guy. He's a developmental guy. The Jaguars could be targeting him at some point on day 3. Rasheed Walker, the Jaguars brought in for a top 30 visit, Penn State left tackle. He's pretty raw in my mind. I think he's got a lot of refinement, but there's some strength and some power in that body. I project him to be a better guard than tackle at the next level. You've got Chris Paul out of Tulsa, interior offensive lineman. Kellen Diesch is an athletic tackle that the Jaguars might be interested. I think he could fit the zone blocking scheme well. Zach Tom should not still be on the board out of Wake Forest. He is formerly a left tackle. Yeah, I have Jamari Salyer on here as well, guys. I'm a fan of him at any point. I had a second round grade on Salyer too. So, but Zach Tom, super athletic guy. He doesn't have great power, but he should fit well pretty much anywhere on the offensive line in a zone blocking scheme. Again, he's probably going to go early today. So if most of these guys, or not most of them, but some of these guys that we're talking about here, if the Jaguars are going to land them, they're going to have to trade up for them. And I think Zach Tom would be one of those. Daniel Faalele as well. He, former rugby player. He's not from America. Came over here, started playing football not too long ago. Minnesota. He's a giant right tackle. And he's just a guy that isn't incredibly strong and difficult to get around with his size. Andrew says, what do you think about foregoing wide receiver this year and trying to bring in Julio? Sure. I wouldn't say forego a receiver in the draft if you like him. just to bring in Julio, but I would not be against bringing in Julio. He's had a tough time staying on the field lately, though, and he's up there in age. I'm not sure that the Jaguars would really have interest in him. Darian Canard is still on the board. He played right tackle for Kentucky. He's a big physical, you know, he he loves the physical part of the game. He likes to drive people into the dirt. He's a big nasty guy. I think he might be a guard at the next level. He's not a great athlete. And then, like I said, Jamari Salyer out of Georgia, who is their left tackle. He also played inside a little bit. I think he's going to be a guard in the NFL. All those guys, I would not be shocked if they have interest. Running back, I do think on day 3 they could go after a running back with James Robinson still on the mend, with Travis Etienne still working back. Travis Etienne is close. He should be ready for training camp, but you have some questions with injuries there. Jamari Salyer did have some nice reps against Aiden Hutchinson. I'll give you that. I wouldn't call him a Hutchinson killer. Georgia's offensive game plan was excellent in that one. Damien Pierce, I have a second on him. I love Damien Pierce. Tyler Algier, I believe, is someone who he hasn't been playing running back a long time out of BYU. But he has the ability to succeed in his own blocking scheme. The Jaguars brought in Hassan Haskins for a top 30 visit out of Michigan. He's a guy that's a big, powerful running back, but he also has some creativity in the open field and some wiggle to him, more than you would expect from a guy his size. So I could see the Jags targeting him for sure. Pierre Strong, he's just an incredibly explosive runner. He's a little undersized, but he's somebody that could really bring some juice to the backfield. And then Isaiah Spiller's still on the board. A lot of people had him maybe in the RB2, RB3 range, but he's still available out of Texas A&M. I wasn't as high on him, but in this range, day 3, I think Isaiah Spiller would be a nice value pick. Could the Jaguars add another defensive lineman? I don't think they need to, but again, Trent Baalke's looking for value. Did they need to draft Chad Mumma? No, they didn't. But we're looking for value here, and he got it with Mumma. Kingsley Anagbari is still on the board. He was one of the best pass rushers in the country last year, just based on his length and strength alone. He's incredibly raw out of South Carolina, but he has really long arms, really powerful hands, and he's a guy that I think you bring in, you develop him, he could be a really good starter in a couple years. Michael Clemens as well, kind of in the same boat. Had some off-field stuff going on for a while, but Michael Clemens is a big, powerful, long defensive lineman. Jesse Lucetta I find interesting out of Penn State when you look at he's played off-ball linebacker. This year he kind of transitioned to more of an edge defender type of player. I think the Jaguars might like that versatility. He played very well at the Senior Bowl. At cornerback, the Jaguars are pretty deep, right? But I think cornerback is one of the deepest positions in this draft. I would not be shocked at all to see them nab one of these guys again because of the value. Zion McCollum and Tariq Woolen are absolute incredible athletes, like 99th percentile athletes. And then you look at Kobe Bryant. He was the best cornerback in the country last year. He won whatever award that one is. I can't remember, for being the best cornerback in the country. Sauce Gardner's teammate. Who doesn't want Kobe Bryant on their team, right? But in all seriousness, this is a guy who I think will thrive in a zone defense. He's incredibly smart. He's a playmaker. He's disciplined. I think Kobe Bryant can find a starting role in the NFL for a long time. Joshua Williams, he's a small school kid, but he acquitted himself well at the Senior Bowl. Very physical, very feisty. I could see them having interest in him. And Mario Goodrich, I keep coming back to him out of Clemson. He seems like the type of football player that this coaching staff would really value. He plays corner, but he plays it so physically. He is an excellent run defender from the cornerback position, and I could see them really valuing that. And they really like the culture that Clemson has developed. It's a similar culture to what the Jaguars are trying to do here with the positivity and the energy. I think Mario Goodrich can bring you that. Defensive tackle, interior defensive line, if you're looking at kind of penetrators, Perrion Winfrey's still on the board, which is surprising. Matthew Butler's still on the board from Tennessee as well. I think both of those guys, if you want someone to create pressure, three technique type of player, both of those guys make sense. But in this defense, I'm guessing they would lean more towards drafting a developmental nose tackle type of guy or someone who has some versatility, which Winfrey and Butler do have versatility. But when you look at just these huge interior defensive linemen, I think Otito Ogbonnia out of UCLA, I don't know if I butchered his name or not, but I watched this kid at the Senior Bowl a ton. That's where he came on my radar personally. And he was really difficult to block for those offensive linemen at the Senior Bowl. John Ridgway was as well out of Arkansas. He's a big, powerful interior defensive lineman. And Neil Farrell as well out of LSU. All three of those guys were Senior Bowl standouts for me. And I think they have the potential to develop into either role players or like starting nose tackle types. Could the Jaguars draft another off-ball linebacker? I don't think so. But Damone Clark has fallen down the board due to his spinal fusion. He's not going to be able to play for at least most of 2022, probably all of it. But this is a guy who is probably going to be a second-round pick had he not had that injury. So when you look at value in Trent Baalke, I would not be shocked, right? Brandon Smith is a super athlete out of Penn State at off-ball linebacker as well. He's still on the board. I don't think he'll be around very long. The Jaguars would probably have to trade up for him. And again, do you need to trade up for a linebacker? No, you do not. But my guess is the Jaguar. Oh, obviously you need a kicker as well at some point. I think you need to bring in a kicker, whether you draft one or you bring one in as undrafted free agent to compete with Matthew Wright and Ryan Santoso. But my guess is the Jaguars will trade up at some point today. I don't think they need to bring in 3 6th-round picks and 2 7th-round picks. I don't think you need 10 draft picks this year. Maybe you go home with 8 and you feel good about those 8 instead of bringing in guys at the end that you didn't really value all that much. I could see them standing pat because GMs, Trent Baalke, they do like to have more throws at the dartboard. The more draft picks you have, the higher your odds of hitting on one. But I would predict that they will trade up. I just wouldn't be shocked if they don't. I'm guessing they'll land one of those big defensive tackles I mentioned. I do think they're going to take a cornerback as well because it's such a deep class. And I do believe wide receiver will happen. My guys are Beau Melton, Kyle Phillips, Khalil Shakir, Justin Ross. Romeo Doubs is an interesting option too because he played with Carson Strong and he was a deep ball receiver extraordinaire at Nevada. And he played pretty well at the Senior Bowl. Wasn't a huge standout, but again, you saw that the size that he has, which he's 6'1", 200 pounds. So he has enough size to play on the outside. He also has 10-inch hands, which is huge for a receiver. Makes it easier for him to bring in that football. But he's been a deep threat throughout his career, and I think Trevor Lawrence could really use that. So those are the guys I'm looking at. We're 33 minutes in. I planned on doing this for about 15 to 20 minutes. So you guys have gotten a healthy chunk more than what I was planning on. I'm sure the wife is ready for me to get out of here. I'm pretty tired, but we're rolling on to day 3 of the draft. Seeing what the Jaguars are going to do. Again, they hold picks 150, 188, 198, 199, 223, and 236. That's a 5th, 2 6, and a 5th, 3 6, and 2 7ths. And I don't expect them to use all those picks. I'm expecting them to move up at some point. Really appreciate everyone for tuning in. Again, if you missed it earlier, the grades I've given out so far, Trayvon Walker is a B, Devin Lloyd's an A, Luke Fortner's an A, Chad Mumma's an A. Walker is going to come in and be a great run defender from the jump. He's going to free people up to run and fly towards the football. Devin Lloyd does everything. Chad Mumma does everything. Luke Fortner is going to come in and compete at center and guard, and I think he'll be a long-time starter as well. So I think the Jaguars – I've been a Trent Baalke critic. I think most people have, but you cannot fault the guy for what he has done so far in the draft, really for the last 2 years. That's going to do it, though. Thanks for tuning in, Duval. Make sure to hit that like and subscribe button on YouTube and check genjag.com for all the latest Jaguars news, analysis, and Duval gear. Thanks.